Tonight, disturbing video of a disabled man with a service dog being removed from a Kitchener restaurant.
Stay in here. We asked you to leave 100 times, buddy. You're trespassing.
The restaurant owner is under fire tonight, but says the video doesn't show the whole story, and now he's telling his side. Plus,
we're in an absolutely critical juncture.
The Science Table releasing its latest data today, showing COVID cases are up in almost every health unit in Ontario, and that has some experts saying it's time to change our behavior. And
their stories are accompanied by images and video clips that visually represent their words.
An array of new installations are lighting up the city tonight, including a public art project that gives disabled artists a chance to tell their stories, and an old school fence illuminated with new life. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. A Kitchener restaurant owner is under fire tonight after a disturbing video surfaced of a disabled man with a service dog being physically removed from the restaurant. But the owner says the video doesn't show the whole story. And tonight he is telling his side. Greg Ross reports.
I have her license.
This video that has now gone viral shows the moment a restaurant owner attempts to physically remove a customer with a service dog. It happened on Wednesday evening.
I'm here in the middle trying to break this up.
Alex Roy was in the restaurant when the altercation happened. His brother shot the video. He says it was difficult to watch.
He was screaming a sentence. I have my papers and my license right here in my hand. And you could see that it was a service dog very clearly. It had its vest, it said service dog on it.
Today, a few dozen protesters gathered outside the restaurant demanding justice.
We saw the video that was circulating online and we thought it was absolutely disgusting.
For the first time, the owner of the restaurant shared his perspective on what happened, and he says the video doesn't tell the whole story.
In order to come in with a dog, if it's a service dog, you have to have a proof.
Dennis Giannopoulos says when his son approached the man and asked to see his paperwork, the man refused and used profanity.
And then he started, to go after my sons. And they say, who are you, asshole? You want to ask me this and that?
He says it was only after the man raised his voice and used profanity that they asked him to leave.
And that one, who used profanity, he has to go out. It's not allowed anymore in the establishment.
Doug Shivas not only knows the man in the video, he trained his dog, a smooth coat collie.
Eponine will go with Justin anywhere that he goes. He has right to access. They're protected under the Ontario Disability Act.
He says regardless of what led to the altercation, he believes the owners should have handled it differently.
They put their hands on him and then grabbed him. Had Justin not cooperated, they should have called the police and say, look, we have a problem here and we can't resolve it. Let the police resolve it.
As for the police investigation into this, I was actually in the bar earlier tonight when 4 plainclothes officers walked in with a warrant to obtain the security footage. They're hoping, obviously, that will paint a clearer picture as to what happened before and after everything that we see in that viral video. Greg Ross, CBC News, Kitchener.
A pedestrian is in life-threatening condition after being struck in a hit-and-run tonight. Police were called to the scene shortly after 8 o'clock in the area of Old Weston Road and Roundtree Avenue. The pedestrian was unresponsive and rushed to a trauma center. The driver fled on foot, and police say the car involved is believed to be stolen. A 36-year-old woman who was murdered in Scarborough early this morning has been identified as Nabila Amenzadah. Officers were called to the home in the area of Ellesmere and Meadowvale Roads at around 3 a.m. Police say they found the woman with trauma to her body. She was taken to hospital but did not survive. 24-year-old Carlin Walker has been arrested and charged with first-degree murder. And we're learning tonight a fatal shooting at a home in the Kingston and Westney Road area and an hours-long standoff at another residence are indeed connected. Now, police were called to a home on Penbury Drive in Ajax early Thursday morning. Investigators found a man who had been shot. He later died in hospital. That man has been identified as 33-year-old Maurice Fullerton. Soon after the shooting, police entered into a standoff with suspects who were barricaded in a home on Highland Avenue in Oshawa. They later arrested 3 men. They've now been charged with second-degree murder in Fullerton's death. After a high-speed crash that killed a Toronto couple last month, Toronto City Council has voted to put in place new safety measures along Parkside Drive. Now, one of the changes will see the speed limit on the road reduced. Natalie Collada has the details.
It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again because as I'm laying down flowers, I could feel the wind of the vehicles just rushing by.
Exactly 1 month ago, Ashley Avila's parents were stopped at a red light near Parkside Drive and Spring Road when they were killed by a speeding driver.
And I'm going through everything that happened. Like I got a call just around this time from him, and then another call, and exactly 1 month today.
The fatal crash sparked outcry in the community. A protest was held as neighbors marched down the road calling for change.
Mayor Tory?
Today, action from City Hall. City Council voted to increase safety measures in the area, including dropping the speed limit from 50 kilometers an hour to 40 and installing some sidewalks and a permanent watch your speed sign. Avila calls it a good first step, but worries it's not enough.
It's progress, but it's not going to do anything because the person who hit my parents wasn't going the speed limit. I really feel like there's big infrastructure changes that need to be done. I really think you need to bring it down to one lane on both sides, just because people look at that route as an easy way to get onto the lakeshore and get onto the highway.
Council also voted to include the development of a redesign of Parkside Drive as part of the High Park Movement Strategy public consultations this fall. In the meantime, Avila hopes the changes will prevent another tragedy, but worries.
It's just a ticking time bomb. The residents of the community have been advocating for quite a number of years already. And it's unfortunate that it had to take my parents both passing away for action to finally be progressed into some deeper measures.
Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
COVID-19 cases are going up across most of the province, with 598 new cases and 4 new deaths in Ontario today. And that could mean a strain on the hospital system. This from the latest briefing by the Ontario Science Advisory Table. Lisa Shing has the details.
As temperatures dip, fewer people are spending time outdoors, and because capacity restrictions have been lifted in most indoor settings, and that's causing an increase in COVID-19 cases across the province.
We're in an absolutely critical juncture.
The latest data from the Science Table shows cases are up in most of Ontario's health units, especially in remote communities with lower vaccination rates. And
we still have 40 to 70-year-old people out there in the province who are not fully vaccinated. This is foolhardy. This is basically Russian roulette played with your own life.
Some experts say we loosened restrictions too quickly.
So it really is quite predictable what's going on here. In Ontario, we are currently releasing restrictions before we're getting that extra vaccination, and so cases are going up.
And while ICU numbers are stable now, that's likely to change. There are currently 130 people in ICU in Ontario. Most of them are not fully vaccinated or have unknown vaccination status. Modeling shows those ICU numbers could climb to between 200 and 250 people by the end of December. Uni says while that's not going to break the healthcare system, we need to take precautions now, like limiting contacts and avoiding high-risk indoor gatherings.
If we continue to do the right thing, slow and steady, and fine-tune our response a bit, we can get this under control again.
The Science Table says the province did the right thing by pausing further reopening earlier this week. It decided to put on hold lifting capacity limits for higher risk settings like nightclubs. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Meteorologist Nick Cernkovich joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Nick, still pretty mild today, gusty though.
Yeah, Kelda, we're looking at temperatures that hit 12 degrees in the GTA. Now, to put that in perspective, the average for this time of year in the city of Toronto is 7.8. So a good about 4 degrees above the seasonal mark. There's a look at afternoon temperatures across the region, but it did come with some pretty gusty winds, gusts up to about 40 kilometers per hour. That continues through the weekend. In terms of the rainfall, we've got a few spotty showers through the overnight period and then into tomorrow morning. Generally a mix of sun and cloud to kick off the day tomorrow. As we head through the afternoon, though, in particular after, I would say, probably 3-4 p.m., we're looking at scattered showers moving across the region as the temperatures drop. Tomorrow night, though, watch for mixed precipitation to move into the GTA and certainly north of the GTA. Here's a look at your forecast for the next 24. 3 degrees tonight. The risk for a few isolated showers. 7 tomorrow. Breezy and a few afternoon showers. We'll talk about that mixed precipitation. Time it out for your weekend coming up in just a bit. Kelda.
Thanks so much, Nick. Toronto was lit up with various public art installations tonight. In the Village, a glowing wall lines a section of Church Street. And over in the Annex, disabled artists projected their creativity under the night sky. Dale Manukduk takes us to the latest unveilings in Toronto's Year of Public Art.
Their stories are accompanied by images and video clips that visually represent their words.
That's lead artist Ophira Kaloff narrating Display, a disability arts project featuring over 50 disabled creatives themed around the question, how do you want to be seen? It stems from a feeling of being invisible, especially during the pandemic.
We're not saying disabled people want to be seen this way. We're saying there's so many different experiences that exist, and they're beautiful and painful and funny and hard.
That's also Kaloff singing, but in the project, she never answered the question herself.
I want to be seen as a person. Ultimately, I want to be seen as flawed, but not flawed because of my body.
The project will be running all weekend at Walmer Baptist Church before moving to Winchwood Barnes and then the Miles Nadal Jewish Community Center.
3, 2, 1.
Meanwhile, in the Village, a project 4 years in the making finally switched on.
We worked with students and we worked with the community members and we worked with the TDSB, who's been our partner all the way through every step of the proposal.
The new wall lines the schoolyard of Church Street Public School. It cost $1.8 million, double its intended budget because of the pandemic. So the fence has 40 meters of LED lights blasting from the top, and each panel is impact resistant, controlled by motion sensors and activated by the speed of movement, which would change the color and pattern of lights that you see.
Also, people moving in the other direction are generating a color. They also could be moving at the same or different speeds. So you have your virtual color, in a sense, moving towards someone else, and they cross and blend and then move on.
Inspired by the spirit of the Church Wellesley Village, each of the colors falls along the color wheel reflecting the rainbow. Dale Manukduk, CBC News.
It's been a long and bumpy road, but the path to the World Cup just became a whole lot easier for the Canadian men's soccer team with a win against Costa Rica.
Here we go, good ball, lifts it up to the far post, Barrera spills, it's in!
Ottawa Rays' Jonathan David scored the only goal of the game. It was enough to secure the win and help the men's soccer team take a big step in its bid to make its first World Cup since 1986. A victory on home soil at Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton, with nearly 50,000 fans in attendance. They are 3 young Chinese Canadians who are embracing their Hong Kong culture through food while finding community along the way. As part of CBC's Rediscovering Culture series, I joined Ken Yao, Rachel Tong, and Jamie Fung in the kitchen to find out how they are reconnecting to their cultural roots by learning to make the dishes they grew up with. Inside this kitchen, something delicious is in the works. Ken Yao, Rachel Tong, and Jamie Fung are inside Ken's home kitchen today, cooking together for the first time.
We're making, I guess it's like very specific to like a Hong Kong diner, Portuguese baked rice.
The dish originated in Macau, a former Portuguese colony that is right across the river from Hong Kong. It's a classic dish they all grew up eating. To accompany it, Rachel is also making a classic Hong Kong diner drink, red bean freeze. For each of them, learning to make these dishes is a way of embracing and connecting with their Chinese culture. It's a journey that has had its bumps.
In grade 6, I remember like bringing this like curry beef bun to school, and you know, like it's classic Hong Kong like bun with like curry inside, and I guess it's not the prettiest filling. And this girl was like, "Oh, that looks like dung. Like, what is that?" Obviously, at the time, I was like, "Oh my god, I gotta like hide my lunch."
Growing up in a Western society and like seeing Food Network, it's always like glorified that like you know French or Italian, or it's never like, oh, Chinese cuisine.
We're constantly, and we're still to this day, constantly wrestling the idea of like, you know, should we be more assimilating to like Western cultures, or should we be holding on to our traditions? I guess it's like this constant identity crisis.
Rachel Tong moved to Toronto from Hong Kong with her family when she was 12.
During the pandemic, I haven't been able to eat with my family as much, so I started to miss those foods. I think before that, I always took it for granted.
It was then she decided to start an Instagram account called Nostalgic Foods, sharing videos of how to make some of her favorite dishes growing up, like the Hong Kong version of tomato egg.
I remember distinctly, and I was like maybe in grade 1, like eating like 4 plates of it. So some of them are my family's recipes, some of them are things that I remember eating and I'm trying to figure out how to make. But yeah, mostly it's like I would text my mom and she would send me a voice note like, "Oh, this is how you do it." As an adult going back to eat it, it's like, oh, these flavors are so like exciting to me.
Through social media, Rachel has also found a community. Like her, Jamie Fung has also been learning and sharing how to make some of his favorite dishes on his Instagram account, Enter the Gateway.
Now I'm gonna add my bamboo shoots.
I wanted to make Hong Kong style dishes, number one, because like these are dishes that we've first and foremost are delicious and like we grew up loving. And it wasn't until like later on, like thinking about it, that I kind of started to realize that there's a lot of like, you know, just life philosophies behind a lot of the way that these dishes are made. When it comes to Hong Kong, like it's not an easy city to live in, right? So you know, everything there has to be like really efficient. A very famous dish is like, you know, the macaroni and soup dish, which is, it doesn't even contain any like Chinese ingredients, but it's Hong Kong style because like they use their mentality and philosophy of just like having something simple, tasty, quick and good.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much Hong Kong breakfast.
I think it tells a really interesting story.
For Chef Ken Yao, it's important to honor his culture by preserving his family's recipes.
My mom definitely cooked a lot, and everybody's just like having fun and playing mahjong, and she would be the one that like gets up and cooks. And she would like cook for like 20, 30 people easily.
During the pandemic, he started an online shop called K-Market, selling handmade foods inspired by his mother's cooking, like her zhongzi, a Chinese dumpling made with glutinous rice, filled with chunks of meat and wrapped in bamboo leaves.
I think like 2 Thanksgivings ago, I asked my mom, like, hey, like you have to teach me how to do this, or else like I won't be able to pass it on to my children, and it's lost forever. I would remember like my mom would make like hundreds of these, and then I remember my grandma would be there and we would make hundreds and hundreds of them. Like I just want to keep learning and learning.
And finally, it's time to eat, because sharing a meal together is also part of the journey of connecting with their roots.
All right, go right right?
It's just like, oh, there's so much to talk about. Like, how did your mom do it? How did my mom do it?
It's like even like a simple question about like, you know, what ingredients were used in something, or like why these flavor profiles exist. It usually kind of like cascades into like deeper conversations. At some point it always ends up, and like we talk about like maybe some of the struggles that our parents might have gone through, or some of the challenges that they had immigrating.
In food, like there's a lot of story and history behind it. And for my family, like they don't usually talk about their past a lot, but when there's a dish, like let's say I experiment with this dessert and my dad eats it and he's like, you know what, like grandma used to make it like this. And like the story comes and flows.
Cheers. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto. A live look at our city skyline tonight. Partly cloudy this evening with showers moving in overnight. Currently, it is 8 degrees in downtown Toronto. Let's go back to Nick now with a look at your extended forecast. And Nick, some wet weather on tap, even snow in some regions.
Yeah, we are looking at some snow in some parts of the region, certainly north of the GTA as we head through Saturday night into Sunday. But even the GTA itself likely to see some mixed precipitation. So let's talk about that first. I think this is going to be the weather story heading into the weekend. Now, as we move through tonight, we've got a few isolated showers into tomorrow morning. Generally, to kick off the day tomorrow, mix of sun and cloud through the afternoon, though. Isolated showers moving across the region. You see the blues there, though. That's your sort of snow or mixed precipitation into the evening hours as temperatures begin to drop. Starting in the higher elevation, we'll see that. But another system starts to push through on Sunday. So Sunday morning, still kind of cloudy, but into the afternoon and the later afternoon hours, some parts of the region here could see some mixed precip or some snowfall depending on where you are, and that kind of carries us through until Sunday night. Now, in terms of how much you can expect, by about Sunday noontime, generally speaking, about 1 centimeter, which means that for the city of Toronto, it's really not going to accumulate. But north of the city, where you see some of these colors here, potential there for as much as 5+ centimeters of snow to accumulate as the temperatures are lower. They'll likely melt into the afternoon, but still sort of a slushy, icy mess, depending on where you are. But north of the GTA and outside of the GTA as a whole, watch for that as we head through Saturday night into Sunday. Gusty winds continue as we head through tomorrow. This overnight tonight, looking at winds about 20 kilometers per hour, but again, up to about 40 kilometers per hour through tomorrow afternoon and into the evening as well. So windy conditions persist basically right through till about Sunday. The risk for a few isolated showers tonight down in southwestern Ontario, some mixed precip up toward the London area. Tomorrow, highs of anywhere from 5 to 7 degrees. And again, isolated showers across the region, not a widespread rainfall event. For tonight, isolated showers as well across the GTA. Pretty short-lived, though, in nature. And tomorrow, a mix of sun and cloud, and then late afternoon, evening showers across the city. Cooler temperatures into Sunday and Monday, 5 degrees. We get back into double digits by Wednesday. But again, what we're watching here is as the temperatures drop towards zero, overnight conditions could make for icy roads the following mornings. Kelda.
All right, thanks so much, Nick. And that's our show for you tonight and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. Shannon Martin has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and I will see you back here on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.